Welcome, everyone, to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBears Casino. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Christ and TK coming to us thanks to Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. And I am with you thanks to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, we're going to get into talking some LSU baseball. We have a reaction to the press conference that happened on Monday. Jay Johnson naming his staff. We'll tell you about some thoughts from that. Also, of course, the Saints are in action on Friday night, 3-point favorite, over under only 36.5, expected to be low scoring. The final preseason game, first game in the Dome, so they had 20 to 30,000 for practice on Sunday, and I'm sure it'll be close to 80, 90% full Dome on Friday as Saints fans are fired up for the start of the season. We'll get into that. Also, we'll tell you about Jameis Winston, give you an update on him. Also, a friend of ours, Todd McClure, getting his number retired over in Atlanta, joining the Ring of Honor, rather. That celebration now will be October 30th. Have some thoughts on Todd as he former LSU and Central Wildcat, now going to be in the Ring of Honor with the Falcons. PGA has some new news. Remember, the Live Tour is pushing the PGA to new heights, and the PGA now is digging into its pocket and going to be spending a lot more money on players. Is this sustainable? We'll get into that. Plus, anybody over the age of, for sure 40. I mean, if you're over the age of 30, you should know the name, and you should probably have a lot. But Len Dawson died at the age of 87, I believe. 87 years old. Len Dawson, former Super Bowl quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. But for me, most famously for Inside the NFL, for many, many years on HBO, hosted that award-winning show. I can remember back in the 80s when it came on the air with Nick Bonaconti and Len Dawson. It was such a big deal whenever they talked about the Saints and the pride and all that. And it was such a great show for so many years. So got some thoughts on Len Dawson we'll get to as well. Bring in TK, Tommy Christ, and fresh off of his first episode of Hold the Rope last night on YouTube. With their new studio and everything. And that's, folks, I encourage you to go to YouTube and follow along on Hold the Rope. LSU baseball Monday, and Jay Johnson said it best, Tommy. No other place in the country can you have a press conference at the end of August when it's football season and, I don't know, 25 members of the media show up to cover it.
Well, LSU baseball is as big as it is. It's as good as it gets. It's because of everything that's happened since Skip Bertman arrived, not to discount what they did back in the 70s, had an FCC title, all that stuff. But, the 6 national championships, 5 by Coach Bertman, 1 by Coach Maneri. LSU baseball is as good as it gets, and they got the best fans in the world as well. And Jay Johnson's right. There's not many places where, August 22nd, you call a baseball presser. They got places would have nobody show up. Maybe one guy looking for the free sandwich, maybe Barry Spears would show up. But other than that, so no, it was something. And I know you were there. I know Coach Bertman and Coach Canterbury and some others were there. And obviously a lot of media people. And I read the transcript, saw part of the video. And Jay Johnson's working hard at it, man. He introduced his new assistant coaches, and those guys look like they're like Jay Johnson. They're ready to work, and it's all about work, and it's all about go to Omaha and win a championship.
Josh Jordan was introduced alongside Wes Johnson. Josh Jordan is the recruiting coordinator. He'll be working with catchers. He's, will assist with hitting as well. He's the transfer from Duke. He was a coach over at Duke. Wes Johnson, though, is the name everybody wanted to hear from and kind of hear about. He's the pitching coach who came over and left the Minnesota Twins in the middle of a season when they had a pretty good team, and that was pretty shocking. His reports are, if they're to be believed, he can make up to as much as double what he was making with the Twins. It gives you an idea where LSU baseball is these days and where the Twins are, quite frankly. It was interesting, Jay Johnson, I feel like, Tommy, gets better and better dealing with the media. I think it's like anything. The more you do it, the savvier you get, the better at it you get. Wes Johnson literally stepped to the podium and went, questions? I mean, he didn't have an opening statement. His answers were short and sweet. I kind of got the feeling he couldn't wait to get out of there to get back to his office and get back to coaching duties. He was not interested in really talking to the media or really diving deep on his feelings or thoughts on anything.
Yeah, no, it's I thought the same thing, and you commented that to me, and so did some others. But hey, if the pitching staff's doing the job and putting up the big numbers, then he don't need to talk to the media. Okay, Alan Dunn wasn't much of a media guy, and had a great run as pitching coach. It tailed off a little bit at the very end, but so it is what it is, as they say, and as you pointed out to me, this was a guy that Jay Johnson tried to get when he initially got the job. It didn't work. And as soon as it could work, it did. So there's a little weight behind that. I think that, this is somebody Johnson had his eye on and wanted to get involved in the program. And what I like about even the Monday's presser, when Jay Johnson got the LSU job, the first couple of press conferences, he talked about LSU. He talked about the SEC. Well, now he lived it. He lived LSU. He lived the grind of the SEC and how just about anybody in the league can beat you on any given day, and how quality coaching and talented the SEC is. Now, I don't know if he saw many of the 11,000 plus crowds, and that'll change, I think, going forward. But now that he has seen it, been there, done that, I think he's even more focused on doing what he has to do, putting the roster together that he has to put together to try to win an SEC championship and or go to Omaha and win the World Series. And I know there's 44 guys on the roster that they released the other day, and that number's going to go down a little bit. That little debate on how far it'll go down. There's some discussion with the NCAA now, and I know you and Coach Bertman and Dan Canterbury talked about that last night. So it'll be an interesting fall.
Yeah, it's we know that Jay Johnson and other coaches are lobbying to the NCAA to keep the roster at limit at 40, to change it back to 40, which is what it was last year. The year before was unlimited. Last year was 40. They feel like there's still a big log jam, and there is a big log jam in college baseball, and the need is to have the rosters be expanded due to COVID still, and everybody getting the free years. And if you look into the transfer portal, there's still a couple thousand players still in there. So to me, I think that's the right thing to do. I don't know that the NCAA necessarily handled COVID correctly and how to do eligibility and all that. I think it was a knee-jerk reaction, and it's now created a mess. That combined with the transfer portal has created a mess. I don't think there's anything negative to a team having as many players as it wants. As long as you keep the scholarships the same, Tommy, there's not much real added expense, right? If I'm not giving you a scholarship, all I'm doing is issuing you a uniform, and that's and feeding you every once in a while. Like that's something that all programs pretty much can handle. So it's so I think that back when I played, they had unlimited rosters. You could have as big a roster as you wanted. Now, when you got to SEC play and the NCAA play, there were rules as far as how many you could have on a travel team or a roster for that. But I think if it helps baseball, it helps keep kids in school and helps them having teams and doesn't have all these players whacked. I think it's good to keep the rosters at 40.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, I don't think your rosters would get a lot larger than that if they went back to no limit, because here's why. Kids want to be on the field. They want to play. So, instead of being the 43rd or 44th guy on a team roster, be it LSU or whomever, wouldn't that kid maybe want to go to junior college or go to a community college or go to a D2 school or a smaller D1 school, who might say, well, yeah, we can get you some at-bats. We can get you some innings. You can get on the bump, as opposed to being that, the 44th guy on the LSU roster, never going to make the SEC 27 players, whatever it is. So kids want to be on the field. Now, would there be some, but I think coaches would like to have the extra bodies for practice and, and the situational stuff and learn the game. And you never know when one of them guys might emerge, and get a lot better than you thought he might get going forward.
Couple quick things before we move on to talking football here. Stephen Miller says it's or Paul Batts says Texas beat writer was amazed on Twitter that LSU baseball is having a presser in August. I mean, that and not only had a presser, but it was a big deal, carried a lot of people there. Also, Chance Babin says, curious to see how they use Paul Skeens. That was addressed. Paul Skeens won't catch. He will be a pitcher, DH, maybe get a couple innings over there at first base. There's talk that they will try to move Trey Morgan to the outfield some, just for his own experience and be able to show the scouts that he has the ability to play out there to help his value in the draft. And if that happens, then you can move the Tank kid, you can move the Skeens kid, all of them over to first base. That's their true position anyway. But definitely Skeens will earn his scholarship on the bump and then swing it a little bit, as a DH. Listen, the irony of this whole thing is if the NCAA follows the request of the coaches and they keep the rosters at 40, that there's some players like maybe a Brennan Holt or a Safford that transferred that maybe might not have transferred had they had the roster, they known the roster was going to be at 40 instead of 35. And the irony there is that LSU is actually a little thin at the infield position. They had some players that signed pro and, that didn't come that they were kind of thinking they would get. And so because of that, they ended up going to get the VCU transfer last minute. And, guys like Holt and Safford might have, at least one of them might have stuck around had the roster been expanded to 40. But that is not that is something we'll manage. Right now it's 35 with a 4-man exception up to 39 due to the COVID situation with the players that are the seniors. We'll see what happens. We do know this. We know that LSU is going to play 2 games this fall. One of them at UL Lafayette. So looking forward to that, going over and watching them play the Raging Cajuns over in Lafayette. I think it's good for them to get some experience on the road. Last year they played both of their fall games, Tommy, at home.
Yeah, well, and what a beautiful park over there for the Raging Cajuns. So that'll be good. And that'll be a full house. No matter when they play that one, that'll be good. So glad to see that. Matt Dykes does a great job with that program. And, we all know about everything with Tony Robichaud, the late, great Tony, friends of yours and mine. And that's good to hear that they're going to go over there on the road and go to Lafayette. Let a bunch of people see 2 really good teams square off, albeit fall baseball.
Yeah, Raging Cajuns made the NCAA regionals last year. By the way, Josh Jordan, the assistant coach that came over from Duke, going to work primarily with catchers. LSU has 5 catchers on its roster. That's not counting Skeens, by the way, who came in. We thought maybe might get some innings back there, and he won't. 5 catchers on their roster. So, and that's going to be a big position because that was a point of weakness last year for LSU defensively. All right, we move on. Saints are in action the Friday night. We'll talk plenty more about them on Friday morning. 3-point line. Are you what's your take on betting on preseason football? Is it easier or harder than the regular season?
I think it's not wise. And I think if you're going to bet because you're trying to get warmed up, you got to have your betting preseason maybe. Very small wager, $10, $20, 30, just depending on where you're at in that world, because it's so unpredictable. And the objective is not to win the game in most cases. Yeah, no, they want to win the game, but they're trying to accomplish other things. The Saints, we'll know Friday morning, hopefully, of whether Winston will play or Dalton, how many plays, how many snaps, how many series. We'll get into that. But the Saints are trying to figure out, in their case, the last 3-4 spots on the roster, who they want to carry into the regular season. And all NFL teams have that same kind of picture. Like, we got to find out about this guy. We got to fill this. And maybe they got a good battle going on for the backup, whatever position, and they want to sort through that. So, hey, they had 30,000 people at a Saints practice on Sunday. I think the Dome will be full on Friday night. Even though high school jamborees start in New Orleans, I think that the Dome will be full. The black and gold fans will be out there in full force playing the Chargers. Good football team, obviously. And I think it'll be a fun night in the Dome for the Saints fans. And then immediately we'll see the roster trim downs and cut downs and find out who they're going to roll into the regular season with against the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, reports are Winston's been moving good at practice, has been limited, but what they've seen, what the media has seen, he's looked healthy, that they're kind of just extra cautious. Let's look at some questions here and comments. Jamie Fortenberry Is Hold the Rope moving from Sunday to Tuesday night? That is true, right, Tommy?
Yeah, every Tuesday, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Hold the Rope Show, Hold the Rope Show on YouTube. And it'll be that way until right after the Super Bowl. And then it'll go back to Sunday nights because LSU plays a lot of baseball on Tuesday nights. And Jordy Collada does a football show Sunday nights, like wrapping up the weekend. But he'll be after the Super Bowl, that's going to switch. He'll go Tuesday and we'll go Sunday. But from now to at least through the Super Bowl, Hold the Rope every Tuesday night. Had a fun show last night. Lots of great stories. The people are still laughing in the aisles. And Roddy, it was we appreciate you being there. And there was a lot of other good stuff as well. And Coach Bertman, I hadn't seen him laugh that much in a while.
um, let's see. Chance saying, how much can Coach Jordan help with catchers? Look, in college, a good coach makes a lot more of a difference, right? And so just having somebody who that's their thing and that's what they've been doing for years, and having 5 to choose from. Right now there's 5 catchers in camp in the fall. That pushes people as much as anything. Not to mention Milazzo missed pretty much all last season, and so he's chomping at the bit. Paul saying, Ronnie and TK, is LSU baseball the hot pick to win the SEC? I'd say so, at least the West for sure. I haven't dug in everybody else, but I have a feeling that when LSU baseball, when the rankings come out, we know Ole Miss lost a lot of people. We know Mississippi State was down last year. I think LSU is going to be picked to win the West for sure. Best futures bet is taking the over at LSU at 7 wins. Is that where it's at right now, Tommy? 7 or 7?
7 or 7.5, depending on where you shop. And I finally, Ronnie, saw the other day with somebody that thought LSU go 5-3 in the SEC. And everybody's got their polls and their picks and their predictions, but most people have them going 4-4 in the SEC and winning 7 or 8 games. And I mean.
Right.
It's so much unknown. LSU, they weren't ranked in the coaches poll. They weren't ranked in the AP poll. CBS came out with their ranking of 1 through 130. LSU was 43rd. 43rd. Florida State, by the way, 47. But, so there's not a lot of people that have bought in to any of the hype. As Coach Bertman said last night, Brian Kelly is a Hall of Fame coach. He will be in many Hall of Fames whenever he's done. And so I think we just got to defer to that and then let him do what he thinks he's got to do to make this team win the West. You got to win the West. You got to go to Atlanta and then get in the playoff, then anything can happen. So, I think that's the case. But in baseball, they're going to be there. But football, I would bet over 7 wins if I had to make that bet today. But, things can change between now and the opener.
Well, the key is the Florida State game. If they win that game, then yes, I do believe they're going to be 8-4 because I think 4-4 is very realistic, for this team. And obviously, if they win Florida State, they're not going to lose any of the other non-conference games. So that's the game to me. So do you think LSU is going to beat Florida State, who at home? And most people think LSU is a better team than Florida State, even on a neutral site. So based on that, maybe don't. I would say, yeah, take the over. And I think they go 8-4. I think that's very realistic for this team, given the Brian Kelly factor too. Now the negative is that you don't have Emory till game 3, and you need all hands on deck game 1 against Florida State. The concern is, can you have a running game? And you obviously have 2 inexperienced. Well, you have 1 inexperienced quarterback in Nussmeier. You don't have an experienced quarterback in Daniels. So having these new quarterbacks with a new coach, but yet a Hall of Fame coach, Tommy, I got him going 8-4. I feel like that's a really good option there when you look around the league.
I agree with that, and I really think this will be the classic case of the team that'll get better as the season goes on with the new head coach and new coaching staff. That's just kind of common logic that you might want to rather play them in September than play them in November, one of those kind of theories. And keep this in mind, Florida State plays a game this Saturday afternoon. It's a name that score game against the Duquesne Dukes from Pittsburgh. So they will have a game under their belt. A lot of coaches will tell you that that's a factor, but I would still pick LSU in the Dome, and I would pick them to win 8 games. I'd bet the over 7, as the question was.
So four losses. I have them. If I had to pick the four losses, I have them losing at home to Bama and then losing on the road at A&M, Arkansas, and Florida. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I can buy that. I can buy what you're selling there, and and we don't know how them teams are going to progress as the season goes forward. Too, are they going to get better? Are they going to get worse? And but I can see that being the scenario. And then you always got, they win one you didn't think they were going to win, and then maybe they lose one you didn't think they were going to lose. So I think 8-4 is a solid prediction at this point for Brian Kelly's LSU Tigers.
All right, we move on. Speaking of LSU Tigers, I just want to touch on this real briefly. Todd McClure from Central High School, who was a great offensive lineman for LSU in the mid '90s, and then went on late '90s and went on to have a fantastic career with the Atlanta Falcons. Finally, I thought maybe this would happen a year or two ago, but he finally found out he's going to be going into the Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor. They're going to have that ceremony on Sunday, October 30th, when they take on the Carolina Panthers. And I think this is the first step and to getting into the LSU Hall of Fame and eventually getting on that ballot and getting into hopefully the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame one day. But of all the offensive linemen that they had back then, you think back to what a great run it was with the Kevin Mawai and Alan Faneca, and then right there, outside of that Hall of Fame group is a guy like Todd McClure, who literally is going to be in the Falcons, Hall of Fame. What a tremendous accomplishment for him. And people forget what a great athlete he was, played 3 sports, and was could have played college baseball.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for him. I know Alden McClure just like you do, and many people do. And I'm going to say this again. I've said this many times over the years. I owe Todd an apology, and I'm not going to get into it right here. And I've been wanting to bump into him for like 3 years, and it never has happened. But and I've seen Tanner, I've seen Trey, I've seen Coach Leo, I've seen them all. But I got an apology to give to Todd about something that happened over 25 years ago on the air. I'll say that it was a radio thing, and no major deal. But once I can tell him, then I'll tell everybody else. So maybe he'll get word of this.
Well, we will. The problem is that Tommy, you're a city boy. He's a country boy. You got to go out to his ranch, 6M Ranch, where he raises bulls and all that. For
Well, I see all his stuff on TikTok. So you telling me I got to go to the country?
Yeah, you're never going to see Todd.
He's not going to come hang out with me at the ice house or something.
No, Zachary for dinner is about as close as you'll get. A Zachary Broncos game is about as close as you'll get. He did come to one Rougarou game this summer, so shout out.
I was busy at the Rougarou game, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make my way to Zachary one of these days and either go to the ranch or go get a cold one with him one evening.
Want to mention this. Len Dawson passed away. We met 87 years old. He was the that quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs under Hank Stram back in the late 60s, and then went on, had a great broadcast career for a long time, and then was on inside the NFL on HBO, and then later went to Showtime. Tommy, am I overstepping to say whenever I hear Inside the NFL, that theme music, it takes me back to 1986, 1987, New Orleans Saints under Jim Mora, when they finally became relevant and good and a national story. And I can remember being a teenager and being excited that the Saints were getting national attention. This was before there were a million channels. This was before, there's just over coverage of every team. It was exciting to hear Len Dawson and Nick Bonacani and the gang talk about the Saints on Inside the NFL. And I can remember when they did a show from Jackson Square in New Orleans. I mean, that was like the biggest thing ever.
Well, I remember a lot of things about Len Dawson. He was also a sports director at a TV station in Kansas City for many, many years. But and they showed it on the Dan Patrick show this morning. The picture of him at halftime of Super Bowl I against the Packers, at halftime on the bench, smoking a cigarette and a bottle of Fresca sitting between his legs on the ground, and he was getting ready for the second half. Okay. Now, also, I was lucky enough to do some radio work with the late great Hall of Famer Hank Stram in the late 80s, and he's always said Lenny Dawson. He told me so many Lenny Dawson stories and how great of an athlete he was out of Purdue, and Hank Stram went to Purdue, so there was a connection there. And Len Dawson, he was the Chiefs. I mean, they had a lot of great players on that Super Bowl team with the Chiefs, and they ended up finally winning it in New Orleans, of all places, in the old Tulane Stadium. But Len Dawson was, a great athlete who was a quarterback that did it for the Chiefs and had some good players around him. But according to his coach, Hank Stram, he had a lot to do with the success of the Chiefs. But you're right, that inside the NFL, that's one of the starting points of the media world blowing up in sports, when they started saying, well, we can talk about this not on Sunday or on Monday night, and we can give people more information because the fans want information. Fans love information about their favorite team. And then now look where we're at with, 92 million YouTube shows and podcasts and radio and internet and everything else. So in a way, he was one of the people that showed that could work, some 30 years ago.
Yeah, started inside the NFL, started in the early 80s, and was just an
40
award-winning show. That was just pretty cool right there. Talking about Hank Stram, yeah, how about that's my mom saying that my pop was at the first Super Bowl. That's pretty cool. When I hear of, and by the way, my dad loved inside the NFL. I mean, my goodness, you talk about for about 10 years he didn't miss. Hank Stram matriculating the ball down the field. Boy, talk about a swing and a miss in the history of the New Orleans Saints. When the Saints got Hank Stram, they thought they were getting Brian Kelly, and instead they got Stram Hank. And
there's a great story about him being mic'd up for that Super Bowl, and I'm gonna tell it here. He told me the story, and we talked about it on radio. The night before the Super Bowl in New Orleans, he's sitting in his hotel room, the big room with all the coaches are in there. They're doing last minute stuff. And somebody comes to Hank and said, Roone Arledge is on the phone, the director of ABC Sports at the time or whatever. They were broadcasting the Super Bowl. He says, tell Roone I'm busy. We got a Super Bowl game tomorrow. Well, like 20 minutes later, Roone Arledge is on the phone. He says he has to talk to you. So Hank finally says, okay. So Hank gets on the phone. And Roone Arledge, a great sports executive TV guy, says, Hank, I got this brilliant idea. He says, I want to put a microphone on you tomorrow afternoon in the Super Bowl. And Hank Stram said, Roone, I got a better idea. Put the microphone on Bud Grant. That's who they were playing. The Vikings were on the other sideline. He said, better idea is put it on Bud Grant. And, because he hung up on it. Nothing to do with it. I'm going to wear a microphone, Well, finally, Arledge offered him some money. And he decided to put the microphone on, and that's where you get that, hey, way to matriculate the ball down the field. Right. And when Otis Taylor caught the touchdown, boy, Otis, good pass, Lenny, all that stuff's on there. I got another great Hank Stram story if you got another minute.
Yeah.
I was doing radio with him. And at the time, we were doing it in Covington on the old WARB AM 730. And he was doing Monday Night Football with Jack Buck on CBS Radio at the time, Joe Buck's dad. Well, there was a Sunshine Network radio thing out of Tampa or Orlando who wanted to do a Hank Stram show. Hank wanted me to host it. What kind of break would that have been back in 86 or 7? They asked Hank to send a demo tape in, okay? First thing, Hank was basically blind. He had the biggest, thickest glasses you ever saw, and he wrote like letters like 4 inches high on his notes when he would do the radio, okay? And you still have to stare at that. So he said, Hank, we want you to send us a demo tape. So Hank says, hey, TK, meet me at the station on Monday. We're going to cut this demo tape. And it was a weekend of the NFL playoffs. You had like 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday back then. So he says, TK, we're going to pretend it's Friday. I go, what? You just follow my lead. So he proceeds to analyze all 4 games and predict who's going to win. And he's like, well, if this team rushes the ball for over 130 yards, they're going to win. Well, they had rushed for 132. Okay. And then he was like, if this team can force more than 2 turnovers, they're going to win. They had forced 3 turnovers. So he looked like a freaking genius. He nailed these 4 games, although he correctly predicted like 12 Super Bowls in a row on CBS radio when he was working with Jack Buck, like the winner and the point spread, before they would let anybody talk about the point spread. So he sends the tape off to Florida, and they come back to him. They want to do the show. Okay. And, he's going to pay me something. I'm fired up. I'm going to say the heck with the Covington Recreation Department. I'm going to move on and be a radio guy. And he asked for like $300,000 when they were going to pay like $30,000, and so they whacked it because they couldn't come up with the money to pay Hank Stram. But the beauty is, we did it on Monday, and he forecast the 4 games on the weekend.
That's too funny. You know, you could get
now.
Away
Here's
with
one other one. You'll like this. I played golf with him a lot. You know, everybody hits a mulligan off the first tee. Okay, Hank Stram hit a mulligan every shot, all 18 holes, and he'd hit a mulligan until he hit a shot he liked. I mean, there were times he hits 4 balls from the fairway 125 yards away, and when he got one he liked, you go, okay, let's go. I mean, he was something else. Now, his son, Dale, is a friend of mine, lives over in the Covington area. We got lots of other Hank Stram stories, but we'll save them for another day. A great guy, a great coach, and a funny man.
That's funny. I'll have to tell you the story on Friday about. I'll save it for when we get to meatandpotatoesusa.com and we start making predictions that first week of the season. I got a gambling story involving pro wrestling. That's pretty funny. That'll remind me to bring up that one there. All right, so that's going to do it for today's show. We'll be back on Friday for more Sports Shorts Daily. We'll be Friday around 10 a.m. Central Time. TK, tell us about Tremonti's on the way out.
Yeah, I'm going to be back over there this Friday. Going to get a ride over there. Still getting on the other side of the knee surgery, but getting a lot better. And appreciate a lot of people that have checked on me. But Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, they got the lunch specials today. It's lasagna. They can do the on-site catering. They got a meat sale on Saturday, August 27th, a meat sale. Best price, 50% off. Great things at Tremonti's on Saturday, August 27th. Save that date. And, of course, they're ready for football season, whether it's high school, college, whatever, home gating, tailgating. They're going to have the platters ready for you, small group, large group. It doesn't matter. Jefferson Highway, a couple of blocks down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. If you connect on Facebook and Instagram, you'll find out all about the meat sale, the bourbon raffle that's coming up in September, but it's already out there. It's all happening at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, and I look forward to being back out there this Friday. Again, approximately 10 a.m. We'll do Sports Shorts Daily. So, and we'll talk a little more about the Saints then.
All right, he's Tommy Christ, and I'm Ronnie Rance. Thanks for watching, and make sure you stop by LeBears. We'll be there on Saturday doing Sports Shorts Radio from 10 until noon. Until then, have a great week, everybody.